Hi, my name is Lauren, and I'm 27 years old. For most of my life, I believed that keeping quiet and carrying everyone's weight was the right way to hold a family together. I thought if I worked hard, paid the bills no one else wanted to touch, and even cover my younger sister's college tuition, then maybe, just maybe, I'd finally earn their respect. Instead, I was just building the perfect stage for my own downfall. It all began on a cold Saturday afternoon. I had finally saved enough from endless late nights at my job as a graphic designer to buy myself something I desperately needed, a brand new laptop. It wasn't just any purchase. It was a reward, a tool for my work, and a symbol that my sacrifices were finally paying off. I placed it on the living room table to charge, feeling a rare spark of happiness. When I stepped away for a glass of water, I returned to find Amber, my younger sister, scrolling through my files without asking. My chest tightened. "Amber, put that down," I said sharply. She smirked, tilting her head with that familiar arrogance. "So, now you think you're better than the rest of us because you can afford fancy toys?" Before I could react, she walked straight to the balcony. My voice caught in my throat as she lifted the laptop and, with one effortless motion, hurled it over the railing. The crash echoed up from the ground 3 stories below, shattering more than just metal and glass. I rushed downstairs, my legs trembling, and picked up what was left. The screen was a spiderweb of cracks, the frame bent, and it wouldn't even turn on. My brand new laptop was destroyed. Heart pounding, I stormed back upstairs. "You're going to pay for that, Amber," I shouted. She leaned casually against the doorway, eyes cold, voice dripping with false innocence. "It was an accident," she said, like it was nothing. I turned to my parents, hoping, just once, that they would defend me. My mother, Linda, sighed as if I was the problem. "Lauren, it's just a laptop. Don't make a scene." My father, Robert, didn't even look at me. And in that moment, with the wreck of my laptop still in my hands, something inside me cracked too. I went to my room that night, shaking with anger, but also with something deeper, clarity. For years, I had been the invisible backbone of this family. Every month, without fail, I sent payments to cover the rent, utilities, internet, groceries, things no one ever thanked me for. On top of that, I paid Amber's tuition in full, pretending it was some miracle that she could attend her classes without worry. But now, staring at the shattered remains of my laptop, I realized just how blind I had been. They didn't see me as the provider or the protector. To them, I was simply the one who could take the hits, the one they didn't need to respect because I'd never walk away. The next morning, I opened my bank account, the same screen I had stared at countless times while sending money I'd never see again. 2 payments stared back at me, one to Amber's university and one to the household bills. My finger hovered over the Pay Now button. For 30 long seconds, my heart pounded as if it was begging me to finally do it. But instead of clicking, I closed the tab. For the first time in years, I didn't pay, and it felt liberating. Days passed, and soon the cracks in their perfect little world began to show. The internet was cut off for a day. I heard my mom, Linda, spending half an hour arguing with the provider about late fees. The electric bill came next, and my dad, Robert, grumbled over dinner about irresponsible people in this house. But the moment that truly made me bite back a smile came one night when Amber stormed into the kitchen, slamming cabinet doors. "They're saying my tuition hasn't been paid," she snapped. "The university won't let me register for next semester?" I kept my voice calm, almost playful. "Weird. Must be some kind of mistake." She glared at me, probably waiting for me to pull out my wallet and fix her life again. But I just walked away, leaving her to stew in the mess she had no idea was only beginning. Because deep down, I knew this wasn't just about bills or tuition anymore. Something bigger was coming, something that would tear everything wide open. A week later, I stopped at a small cafe after work, desperate for a moment of peace before heading back to the suffocating tension at home. I sat in the corner with my old backup phone, the only one I had left since Amber destroyed my laptop, and scrolled through my emails. That's when I saw it. Subject line: loan account activity. My brows knitted. Loan account? I didn't have any loans. My heart picked up speed as I opened the message. It thanked me for recently updating contact details on a student loan registered in my name. My stomach dropped. At first, I thought it was a scam, but something told me to call the bank's fraud department. When the woman on the other end pulled up my account, her voice turned careful, professional. Yes, ma'am, I see 3 student loans under your name, totaling just over $18,000. The most recent one was taken out 2 months ago. My blood ran cold. That's impossible, I whispered. She hesitated. Do you by chance have a sister named Amber Carter? I froze. Yes. She's listed as the beneficiary on these loans. The words blurred together after that. My pulse hammered in my ears. Amber hadn't just been leeching off my kindness. She had stolen my identity, my future, my trust, and used it to fund her life. When I finally got home, the house was quiet. My parents, Linda and Robert, were watching TV as if nothing in the world was wrong. Amber's music blared upstairs. For a split second, I imagined storming into her room, waving the email in her face, screaming until the walls shook. But then a different kind of calm settled over me. No, that wouldn't be enough. I needed proof, solid, undeniable proof. I needed her to think she'd gotten away with it, at least for now. That night, I started a new folder on my old computer. I titled it The Truth. Inside, I saved every bank statement, every email, every screenshot. The next day, I went to the bank in person and requested signed documents confirming my information had been used. I built the case piece by piece until there was no room for denial. By the time I was done, the evidence was airtight. All I had to do now was wait for the perfect moment to bring everything crashing down. A week passed, and by then the tension inside the house was thick enough to choke on. My dad, Robert, started dropping hints at dinner about family responsibility and how some people forget where they came from. My mom, Linda, barely spoke to me anymore, just sharp glances, silent accusations. Amber avoided me, but I could feel her fury whenever she stomped past my door. Then one Thursday evening, my phone buzzed with a call from my father. His voice was too sweet, the kind of tone he only used when he wanted something. Lauren, your mom's making a big holiday dinner this weekend. Family tradition, you know. We want you there. I almost laughed. Family tradition. What a joke. But I agreed, because I knew this was the moment I'd been waiting for. That Sunday, the dining room was dressed up like a postcard. Roast turkey on the table, candles flickering, mashed potatoes steaming in a bowl. Amber was already seated, scrolling through her phone with a smug look, like she owned the place. Linda greeted me with a forced smile, Robert with a stiff nod. As I sat down, I felt the weight of their plan pressing down on me. This wasn't just a holiday dinner. This was an ambush. Lauren, my mom began, her voice syrupy sweet. We need to talk about you helping out again. The bills, Amber's tuition, it's gone too far. You've made your point, but enough is enough. Amber smirked, leaning back in her chair. Finally coming to your senses, she muttered. I folded my hands on the table, heart calm, eyes steady. Oh, I've come to my senses all right, I said softly. And I knew the moment had come. I reached into my bag and pulled out a thick manila envelope, setting it right in the middle of the table. The sound of it hitting the wood silenced the room. Amber's smirk faltered, and Robert's fork froze halfway to his mouth. In here, I said, my voice steady, is every single bill I've paid for the last year. Rent, utilities, groceries. And yes, Amber, your tuition too. Every dollar, every receipt. Robert frowned. What's your point? My point, I leaned forward, is that I've carried this family without a word of thanks. And how did you repay me? By siding with Amber when she destroyed my laptop. I paused, then slid out a stack of documents stamped with official seals. But that's not the worst of it. These are records of student loans taken out in my name. Over $18,000, all connected to your precious golden child. Amber's face drained of color. That's not true, she stammered. I tossed another page onto the table, the one with my signature forged at the bottom. Care to explain how my social security number ended up here? Linda's lips trembled. Robert's jaw clenched. Amber sputtered, her voice breaking. It was a mistake. I didn't mean. Don't bother lying. I cut in sharply. The bank confirmed it. And in case you're wondering, yes, I've already filed a police report. Identity theft is a crime, Amber. You'll be hearing from them soon. The silence that followed was suffocating. Candle flames flickered against pale, shocked faces. Linda's voice finally cracked through the quiet. Lauren, she's your sister. You can't do this to her. I stood, sliding the envelope back into my bag. She threw away my laptop. I'm throwing away her lies. And I'm done paying for any of you. Without touching a single bite of food, I walked out. Behind me, the holiday dinner collapsed into stunned silence. 2 days later, I was working from a small coffee shop downtown, enjoying the peace of being away from home, when a notification popped up on my phone. It was from the neighborhood group chat. Police cars outside the Carter house. I didn't even need to guess why. When I drove back into the neighborhood, 2 patrol cars were parked out front of my parents' place, red and blue lights flashing across the street. Curious neighbors stood on their porches, whispering, watching the show unfold. I stopped across the road, leaning against my car, and let it all play out. From the doorway, I saw Officer Miller guiding Amber down the steps in handcuffs. Her face was pale, her hair a mess, her eyes darting around at the gathering crowd. Linda trailed behind her, shouting about family matters and misunderstandings. Robert kept his head down, shame written all over him. The officer's voice carried clearly in the winter air. Amber Carter, you're under arrest for fraud, identity theft, and unlawful use of personal information. Amber's voice cracked as she twisted toward me, spotting me across the street. Lauren, tell them this is a mistake. Please. I didn't move. Arms crossed, I stayed exactly where I was. Not my problem anymore, Amber, I said calmly, loud enough for her to hear. Officer Miller gave me the smallest nod before guiding her into the back seat of the patrol car. The door shut with a heavy thud, and the sound was more satisfying than I ever could have imagined. As the police cars pulled away, my mother stormed toward me, face red with fury. You've ruined her life, she screamed. I looked her straight in the eye. No. She ruined her own life. I just stopped protecting her from the consequences. She opened her mouth again, but no words came out. I got back into my car, started the engine, and drove off, leaving them behind with the wreckage they had created. And deep down, I knew it was only the beginning. The court date arrived faster than I expected. By then, word had spread through town like wildfire. In the grocery store aisles, at the gas station, everywhere I went, I could feel the whispers, the stares. The Carter family wasn't as untouchable as people once thought. When I walked into the courthouse that morning, the weight of every eye fell on me. Amber sat at the defendant's table beside a public defender who looked exhausted before the trial even began. Gone was her smugness, replaced by hollow eyes and nervous, fidgeting hands. Behind her, Linda and Robert sat stiff, stone-faced, refusing to meet my gaze. The prosecutor laid everything out piece by piece: the forged documents, the bank confirmations, the digital trail showing Amber logging into my accounts. Every shred of evidence I had collected in my folder, the truth, was now on display as Exhibit A. When it was my turn to speak, I stood tall and told the story plainly. For years, I paid her tuition. I paid my parents' bills without complaint. And when I finally stopped, instead of stepping up, Amber stole from me. This isn't just a family argument, it's a crime. Amber's lawyer tried to spin her actions as the desperation of a stressed student who made a poor decision. But Judge Anderson wasn't swayed. His expression was firm, his tone sharp as he read through the charges. Verdict: guilty on all counts. Sentence: 1 year in county jail. Restitution: full repayment of $18,000 in fraudulent loans, plus damages of $12,000 for identity theft and emotional distress. The gavel hit the desk with a sound that echoed through the room. Linda gasped. Robert lowered his head into his hands. Amber burst into tears, not the kind that came from regret, but from shock. Her carefully constructed world had just collapsed in an instant. As I walked out of the courtroom, the burden I'd carried for years finally lifted. The settlement money wouldn't erase the betrayal, but it gave me the power to start fresh. For the first time, the future was mine alone. 3 weeks after the verdict, the settlement money hit my account. Staring at the numbers on my screen, I felt something I hadn't in years: freedom. Not because it was a fortune, but because it was finally mine. Money I had earned through both hard work and by standing up for myself instead of being everyone else's safety net. I didn't waste time. I rented a small but bright office space downtown, painted the walls myself, and hung a simple sign outside: Lauren Design Studio. For years, I'd poured my skills into other people's visions while my own dreams gathered dust. Now, every late night and early morning went into something that belonged entirely to me. Clients trickled in at first, small businesses that had seen my work online or through word of mouth. Within 2 months, I had more projects than I could handle, so I brought on a part-time assistant. Watching someone else sit across from me in my office felt surreal, like proof that my new life was real. Meanwhile, news about my family reached me through the grapevine. Without my quiet support, Linda and Robert struggled to keep the bills paid. Amber, expelled from her university and serving time in county jail, lost every so-called friend who had once flocked to her. She would come out with no degree, no job, and a criminal record stamped to her name. One evening, as I was locking up my office, I pulled out my phone and typed a single line on my business page. She destroyed my laptop. I built the life she can never touch. It wasn't about gloating, it was about closure. Almost a year later, I walked past the same electronics store where I'd bought that laptop. The display shelves glittered with the latest models, but this time there was no heaviness in my chest, no anger simmering beneath the surface. Only calm victory. I picked up a new one, smiled at the clerk's compliment, and walked out lighter than ever. That night, I set the laptop on my desk beside the framed license for my design studio. I snapped a picture and posted it online with a caption that only a few people would understand. She thought breaking my laptop would break me. Instead, it set me free. The post went viral overnight. Clients poured in. Messages came from strangers who had finally stood up to their own toxic families. And as I sat alone in my apartment, the city lights glowing outside my window, I realized the truth. I didn't need an apology. I didn't need their approval. I had something far better: my life, on my own terms. And that was worth more than any laptop in the world. My name is Lauren, and this was my story. A story of betrayal, of lies, and of finally breaking free. For years, I carried the weight of a family that never truly saw me. But the moment I stood up for myself, everything changed. I didn't just walk away. I built a life they can never touch. If you've ever been silenced, ignored, or betrayed, remember this: walking away isn't losing, it's winning back your own future. This is Revenge Repeat, where every story reminds us that sometimes the best revenge is taking your power back.